Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Huh.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How much did I pay for this?
We're live.
Hey.
That's so funny. All the people could hear us was going, huh? Mm-hmm. Yep.
I just watched the intro and I saw the us doing the
Hmm?
how much did I pay for this? Funny. All right. Hey internet, hey everybody. Or is it just
Hello.
one person me watching?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. All right. Let's get this New Year's edition because
New
this is
Year's
gonna like you
Eve.
said. Yeah, you said this is coming out synchronized. So I got my Fisherman's Friends out, got my
Put
water, my coffee, notes.
put the illusion that we're doing it live.
Yeah. Well, we are doing it live, but then podcast drop at a later date. So just think it's New Year's Eve. That's all.
New Year's Eve. Okay.
All right. You ready?
Sure.
All right. Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
And I'm Ryan.
And on this episode, we're going to do some games of late. We're going to do some, we're not even going to do some news. Ryan, what are we doing? This is a special episode.
We are now. Happy New Year's, folks. We're going to look back on the year that was 2021. Or 2020 year one. Now we're going to go into 2020 year two.
All right. I thought you were going to mention the top 10s.
Oh, yeah, we'll get there.
All right, coming back in. And we're back. This is Cardboard Conjecture, Games of Late. Ryan, take it away.
Sure. So I had all of the good intentions to start streaming this game on the Wednesday night stream, but realized that my logistics were just not going to be quite there. So what I've been playing lately is Arkham Horror, the card game, my favorite game of all time, and the newest expansion, Edge of the Earth, which made it onto the What You've Been Playing Wednesday episode as one of my biggest surprises of 2021, which is Fantasy Flight Games actually finally listened to the consumers and said, we don't want to buy the deluxe expansion and then 6 monthly packs. Just, we're going to buy it anyways. Put it all in one big box. And, well, they didn't put it all in one big box. They put it into 2 boxes. If you want the campaign and just the campaign, you don't want no more player cards, you can buy that. Yeah. Or you don't want the campaign, but you want more player cards to do your deck building, you can just buy that. Of course, I bought both. Of course. And I did an unboxing, which is apparently our most popular video on our YouTube channel with almost 500 views at this point. People go gaga for bananas for Arkham Horror stuff. So I'm not going to get too much into it because there is lots of spoilers because it is a campaign narrative storytelling. But man, all I can say is that this is the most ambitious project for the Arkham Horror card game that I have seen since I've played all of the scenarios, all of the campaigns so far. And this one is by far the most narrative driven out of all of them. And they carry a strong narrative across the different campaigns. But this one, just before you even get to playing the first scenario, you're reading about 3 or 4 pages of text.
Cool.
Setting the tone. And there is a lot of Arkham Horror fans, H.P. Lovecraft fans out there, knowing that, hey, this is taking place in the Antarctic, and this is heavily influenced by the Mountain of Madness story that he released, and that one is a very popular story. I believe there's even been movies. There's been lots of movies,
adaptations and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
For it. I've played the first scenario, which is actually another new interesting thing that they've done, is that there is one scenario. It's kind of like 3 scenarios built into one. There are these, what they call they call them checkpoints, so that you can, if you want to, you can just kind of pack up the game at that point and carry it on a little bit later. it almost feels like 3 separate scenarios, but
cool.
all as just one bigger scenario. And I really like this one too, because when you're doing the narrative piece, there are effects to the gameplay depending on which passages, kind of like the choose your own adventure thing.
Oh, nice.
There are things that happen. You add things to the chaos bag, or you have to actually get rid of cards out of the campaign. Like, those cards aren't going to appear in the campaign depending on the choices that you have made.
It's awesome.
Been really cool. Now, the reason why I haven't put them on stream is because the maps, I kind of mentioned this to you.
You're telling me.
The maps are actually, at least the very first one, was exponentially larger than lots of other maps that are out there. And just the way that some locations are connected to others makes it like, I have the pathway markers, and I kind of needed those because, man, okay, this one's connected to that one, but it's not connected to that one, but it's connected.
You're gonna need,
yeah,
you're gonna need some yarn.
Yeah, mind mapping all over the place.
It'd be like a CSI.
Yeah, I'm playing with 2 new investigators from the investigator expansion. There's Lily Chen. She's a mystic, but she also is kind of like a guardian fighter type of deal. And then I picked this other guy because his name is awesome. It's Monterey Jack. And the build that I found for him, kind of, he's the guy that's going to go around getting the clues, where Lily, she's going to be the person beating up the monsters.
All right.
Type deal.
This such a cool storytelling adaptation. Like, we had been talking about that idea of how the games have been going more narrative driven and more bolder in regards to these choices. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so Edge of the Earth, I'm really digging it. I can't wait to get into more. The campaign is it's ambitious. It's got a very nice, they've spiral bound the book with all the scenarios together. So yeah, now they're gonna re-release all of the older campaigns, I believe, in this model, where now, if you missed out on, say, like the Dunwich Legacy, which is one that has been very hard to find, or at least you can pick up pieces here and there. Early 2022 here, they're going to be releasing the campaign expansion, so you can buy all the campaign. And then they're also going to release all of the player cards as a separate expansion. So I think they're going to continue this release.
I saw
model.
that. Because I have the old base game, and you were saying, wait, hold off, because they're going to start dropping these bundles out.
Yeah.
So, nice.
And they're going to start doing it with Lord of the Rings.
Yay. Now you're talking my language.
Which, if they're going to do this, because I've completely missed out on Lord of the Rings. Like, there's so many. But if they're going to do this, well, what's just one more living card game, hey?
Yeah, exactly.
What's just one more?
You got the model down. Well, and I mean, you were talking about this so much and driving the idea of this choose your own adventure thing that I actually have been motivated to take the cellophane off my game and start learning it, so that you and I can do some Arkham Horror online.
Yeah.
Because I think I have the space where I can host that thing. So
I've seen your space. Yes. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Yeah, and I'm a carpenter, so if I need more space, I'll just build a bigger table. I'll build a bigger table.
Yeah, I'm still I'm still competing with all my wife's work stuff all over the table here.
Well, and she works from home, so she's got precedence.
Yes, she does.
Cool. Well, I've been super busy because obviously we were talking about this coming out New Year's. That over Christmas break, I've been knocking out a lot of carving, and I think you've been seeing on Twitter some of the stuff been popping out.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I still had to get some gaming in, so I went to one of my favorite designers, and interestingly enough, we're going to talk about some of our faves this year, and this guy pops up more than once on my list, and that's Martin Wallace. And I played Australia. And here's the really funny connection that I didn't even think about. This is Cthulhu as well.
Yeah.
This is that tie-in with a study in Emerald, which is, I like to think that this is the Act 1, Act 2 kind of thing. And Martin Wallace, it's what can you say? There's like tiles, trains, um, uh, Cthulhu monsters, and it's Martin Wallace. So
Which is usually not a thing that you associate Martin Wallace with, is a Cthulhu
that's
monster.
yeah. Yeah, well, that's that is the thing. It's like usually trains, and then this one is like, okay, there is trains, and there are these Lovecraftian Cthulhu monsters, but um, yeah, there's and again understanding that I'm knocking it out with the solo play, which is really really good. They have such a good AI deck that does a great job at um, um, mimicking the momentum and the game system operation of the board. And I should get into talking about like, solo games that do it well, kind of thing. And this is one of them because I am routinely getting my butt handed to me. It's like it is. It's one of those like any solo game. There's a lot of ways to lose, and there's only one way to win. And this one is it's not necessarily my favorite way to win because it's a point driven thing, but in this case, my point score, I'm competing with the Cthulhu monsters point score. So I have to approach it in such a manner that once the map is revealed and once the resources are in place, it's one of those CSI boards where you're looking at it going, well, if I move my train in here because I have to get my train to acquire these resources, and there's farms to build that generate even more. Like it's that whole interconnectivity that he has. What surprises me the most is that it's not a card driven game, which he's pretty identified with. It is the cards in that game are just individuals that asymmetrically change your I guess farm approach. So yeah, and I'm not usually like I'm not driven a lot by the Cthulhu stuff because that's not a genre that I've ever been into. But once I looked at the stories and all the original material right away, like you said, the adaptations, I'm like, well, these three movies are based on this story, and it's like, okay, well, I have been consuming Lovecraft without knowing I've been consuming Lovecraft. So yeah,
Interesting. Very
yeah.
interesting game.
If you like yeah, if this piques your interest, and there's two boards. There's a standard board, and there is I like to call it the nightmare side.
Ah.
So
now, yeah, kind of looks like one half is like the eastern part of Australia and the other part is the western part of Australia.
Yeah.
Can you put the two boards together to make like Mega Australia? Or sorry,
you'd have to peel the paper off.
Oh, okay, it's double-sided.
Yeah. But I don't think you'd want to do that because you would definitely, falling in line with the Cthulhu theme, you would definitely go mad. So yeah, Australia, and one of my favorite, Martin Wallace, as designer, and this one was, I think this is, I was going to say Stronghold. Yeah, Stronghold brought it out in their designer series.
Oh yes, so. the famous, hey, if you're not part of this series, you're not a great designer.
I know. that was so used car salesman. It was kind of like, oh, okay, well, I'll buy it anyways.
Those Stronghold games attempt at
making a series or something.
The FOMO of, hey, line them all up and you've got the great designer series 1 through X. Yeah. I don't know how many there were, how much they made.
I'm not going to poo-poo that behavior because if you look right here, I've got like spelled 10, 11, 12, 13.
Yeah, well, at least
like you.
Yeah.
So cool.
Right on.
All right, we'll segue out. And we're coming back in. Show notes. And welcome back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. We're going to go into the looking back on 2021, a year in review. So Ryan,
very literal reading of the show notes.
Yeah, thank you. Ryan, you popped down the 4 categories. Why don't you bust this open for us?
Sure, yeah, because much to the dismay, much to our dismay, there were actually lots of stuff that still came out in 2021. even though we are still dealing with a global pandemic, and then there was
Yeah.
all that stuff that came about with the shipping issues, like all started off with that the container ship that blocked the one
Okay,
canal,
the Panama Canal fiasco. Yeah.
and then that started off, and then there all of a sudden it's still pandemic times, and people, these ship ports, these ports are being like, there's no labor, like the
Yeah.
supply chain, the labor shortages in the supply chain just started blah.
Collapsing. Yeah.
But still lots of stuff still eventually made it into consumers' hands. And
Hmm.
Canada, where usually the end of the supply chain,
Yeah.
everything goes to the Americas first, and then up. But everything still, eventually we still end up getting in quite a few. I still end up playing quite a few 2021 releases.
I know.
More than when I was looking at them, when I just populated that list on Board Game Geek, I was like, oh yeah, I played that. Oh yeah, I played that. Oh
That's
yeah. Enough that I could actually make a top 10
Yeah.
at the end of this episode.
Cool.
So, yeah, I just kind of spewed out some points. So, maybe we want to go with our favorite new to us. So, not necessarily a 2021 game, but a game that we played in 2021 that was new to us, that we kind of like, you know what, really, really grabbed us.
Yeah. You could have the subtitle, our shelf of shame.
Right?
Because that's exactly what happened with my favorite one. So yeah, you start us off, man.
Okay. Well, mine was not necessarily a shelf of shame one, but it was a game that was released quite a while ago, 2015, 2016, and it got re-released this year. And I'm talking about Ashes Reborn, Rise of the Phoenix Born, which I did why I fell in love with it was because I had picked it up. I think I had sold, or I had traded off a whole bunch of Dragon Ball super cards to 401 Games, and I got a massive amount of credit. And then I saw that they were bringing in the Ashes Reborn lineup, and so I spent off my credit. I said, I'll just buy it all. I'll just trade that credit. I'll trade cards in for more cards.
Yeah.
Let's
we'll
just do it
flip
that
the
way.
cards. Yeah.
And then Rob from the Meeple Dungeon, he had posted on social media that he had also acquired Ashes Reborn. And I was just like, hey, I just acquired that. Let's get a game. And I heard it plays relatively simple over a webcam. He's like, imagine your best Rob. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Type of thing. And yeah, we played it one night. Yeah. And we played it one night. Just kind of learning the rules with it. And we were like, oh man, this is really good. And then we kind of just spot off the idea, well, let's do it. Let's do a challenge. Yeah. And then that spotted off that really kind of spawned the live stream on Wednesday nights, because that was the only night that we were free. And then we did a best of 7 starting in the summertime. And man, did we fall in love with the gameplay. And I reviewed it back episode, if I would have looked at it ahead of time, episode something a while ago. Reviewed it, absolutely adored it. Ashes Reborn. It's probably my favorite dueling card game, like at this point, period.
Cool.
So,
cool.
Yeah. And the dice. Everything's with the dice.
Little froth came out.
Yeah.
I got to play, and I'm so glad that Dave and Jordan were up to playing this, but A War of Whispers. And this one is published by Starling Games and designed by Jeremy Stolzfus, I think. And this one is because of, and this is that nostalgic part of me, because of that long streak of playing Risk, old school with a group of friends. And this one it's kind of like Risk, where there's a global environment or area control, but you're not the countries. You're actually, it's a War of Whispers. So you're the advisors in the background that are quietly whispering in all the leaders' ears to try to motivate them to do something, because you have in front of you on your player board little little discs that are kind of wager discs, and from left to right you have city times 5, and then the next slot is city times 4, and all the way down to -1 kind of scenario. And how it works is, whatever, there's five factions on the board, and the way that you random the random placement of these multipliers kind of shows you who you have to start whispering to start moving around on the board. Now, how all of this works, it's very recipe like, and I love it because it's 4 rounds. It's fast. It's so incredibly kind of shifting and tactical, and in a three moves, everything is changed, because as it goes around, each country on the board has 4 positions, and each of those 4 positions represents how you can manipulate the area control on the board, and how you can get these really cool faction cards that are rule breaker cards. And anytime you have like rule breaker cards, oh, that sends a game into some chaotic directions. And so yeah, without going into like a review, this game met all of my expectations when I did my research on it. And what I love about this game is that one of the major components on this game are the players at the table, because you need to meta read their body language on who are you pushing for, and if you are, well, what kind of, how am I going to play you in this, and how am I going to. So a lot of the time we played a 3-player game. It was great because it was like watching Dave play and watch every minute move he did on the board. I was analyzing it, going, well, how does that represent what you have as your multipliers, and how is that going to conflict with what I have? And oh my God, Jordan, what do you do? Why did you put that there? Why did you move this guy here? My brain was going into like a beautiful mind, little white stuff going all over the place and breaking down algorithms. And then, of course, you know me well enough, the Joker part of my brain went, chase the car, right? And I just basically, but yeah, this was such a pleasant surprise. You have to try this game. I'm telling you, this will be one of those games where you finish and you'll have beads of sweat coming down.
Oh man, yeah, you've talked about this one quite a few times this year. I have to try it. I have to play it. Yeah. I have to try it.
Yep. That's a War of Whispers, and Starling Games. Well done. Well done.
Well done indeed.
Yeah. So moving on.
Let's move on. Not to like a favorite game, but there may have been like a couple stinkers in the year.
Oh.
And so how about we just kind of briefly let's not give it too much attention.
No, we'll let it waft, and then we'll open up the windows and clear the room.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to talk our biggest disappointment of 2021. And I find it funny that we both actually, I had put down 2.
Yeah.
And so I because we both chose the same game. So luckily I have a second one
to
also talk about. So Norm, what was your biggest disappointment? That was also one of my biggest disappointments.
And I think the biggest disappointment is because I love this designer so much. And every time I sit down to play their game, I'm geared up and I'm ready for this heavy cognitive load of a game. And when I played Mercado de Lisboa, it was kind of like, really? That's it?
That was exactly our reaction when we played it too, where it's like, I'm playing it, and it was exactly as advertised. A very quick to teach, quick to play style of game.
Yeah.
And we were very just left underwhelmed.
Yeah. It was for me, it was one word. Huh.
Yeah.
That was it. Really?
So Mercado de Lisboa by Vital Lacerda, Eagle Griffin Games. Had high hopes. I love Lisboa.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and this was taking like a very small piece of the Lisboa game, kind of adapting it a little bit into these merchant stands. And I can see some clever things that it was doing, but it was just like, okay. I feel like there's no interesting choices on my
Yeah.
turn. I've always felt, and we
Stifled.
well, not even stifled, but it was like there was always obviously something that I should do.
Yeah.
Either block Jen or block another player or cash in some big coins.
Yeah.
It was really never like if I blocked Jen, it was like, okay, I still scored coins.
And this is interesting because for me, I played the solo and the solo was just like, oh, wow, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Like I said,
usually,
hmm.
and these style of games usually do work well with two players, which is our main way. And not we were not impressed with maybe if we are able to play with more players, maybe it has something, but
Yeah.
no, my one of my biggest disappointments
Yeah.
was
Okay, let's
Michaela
move
Lee.
on. We talked
Yeah.
too much about it.
My other one was actually by a designer that I absolutely adore and love, Stefan Feld, but he came out with a stinker in my eye, which was called Coco Pelli, released by Queen Games. And again, it was just like your reaction after Jen and I had played it a few times. We were just kind of left wondering, like, that was it, or that's all this game is.
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just like, so we tried it. Like, we tried to like it. We probably played it about 6 or 7 times in a 3-evening span. And then I was just like, I know who's going to like this. And I sold it to Dave.
Okay.
And Dave bought it.
Yeah.
And he's just like, yeah.
So it's not a bad game. It just wasn't for you.
It wasn't for us. So it was
Yeah.
but it was disappointing because it was a Stefan Feld game. I love
Yeah.
Stefan Feld games. But I was just like, yeah, it was just the biggest disappointment. If a game makes you go, eh.
Yeah. Well, maybe sometimes you just drive it up too much and hyped in your head. So, but yeah, okay. Well, there's our disappointments. Now let's cheer things up.
Yeah. Favorite expansion.
Let's expand.
Favorite expansion of 2021. And of course, people are going to know what I'm going to choose as an expansion.
Did you talk about this?
If Fantasy Flight Games is known for anything, it's their expansions for their games.
Yeah.
I talked about it. I talked about one of them already on this episode. Arkham Horror, the living card game, Edge of the Earth expansion. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Runner up here, Marvel Champions, the Mad Titan Shadow campaign, I believe is probably one of the most solid campaigns that they've gotten. I think they're getting better. I really want to see that market system from Galaxy's Most Wanted incorporated into a campaign expansion.
Yeah.
But the scenarios that the Mad Titan Shadow incorporated into their game really changed the game. I wasn't really fired up about the heroes that they did, Adam Warlock and Spectrum.
Yeah.
Even though
the Mad Titan, like to me, that's the star of the game. There is like, get some villains out.
Yeah, and that Thanos, the Mad Titan himself, is not the main villain of the campaign, which is really, really kind of cool.
Yeah. When you told me that, it threw me off.
Yeah, so those are my favorite expansions that came out. Of course, there's tons of hero packs. If I had to pick a hero pack from Marvel Champions that came out this year, Venom was a really, really cool hero pack that came out this year.
I'm gonna have to look at that one. Right on. Expansions for me, kind of. I had to put a couple down because it was like for two different reasons. Intrepid, Michigan Critical, and South Africa mini expansion. Not going to get too deep in this one because I might be talking about this game later. But Intrepid is based off of you are part of the space station, and you are one of the countries that are on the space station. You have a speciality, and it's kind of a cool engine building cooperative game because there are these events that happen that are how should we say surviving in space is very difficult. So that being said, many ways to die and difficult ways to survive and keep things running. And there's so many little engines going on that it's just brilliant. And the way the placement of these little tiles, which represent all these upgrades that you can do. Picture the space station, but the bulk of the space station are the solar panels. That's where you place all these little kind of engines or computers or specialties that come with the each country, asymmetric powered country. So the reason I love that one is the more stuff, the better.
Hmm.
Right now, the one that helped kind of take a good game and not make it better, but give it more dimension is Parks, the Nightfall expansion.
Hmm.
Parks, such I mean, I think Ian talked about it, and he said it's very Takedo esque, and it is that, hands down. And Parks uh, adds this little ability to set up a tent and then go off on a little kind of side tangent. Um, didn't didn't Doesn't take away from the game, but adds a nice dimension to it. And one that would be on the list, but I haven't played it yet, is Glenmore 2 Highland Chronicles, because it
Hmm.
takes my gorgeous Glenmore 2 game and makes it solo play.
Nice. Yeah, I
So
heard that there was a solo play module that
yeah,
was incorporated into that one.
yeah.
When you're talking about these two, I realized I don't really think I picked up expansions to my actual board games this year. I just all my expansions were like the Marvel Champions
Add-ons.
packs and
Yeah.
the Arkham Horror stuff. I'm really racking my brain about what an expansion that I
Yeah.
got this year.
Well, and I mean, a lot of times too, because I understand you do a lot of Kickstarter,
No,
that
maybe.
you just automatically check off the expansions, right? So that just all comes with it. So there you
All
go.
right.
What's the next one?
What's the next one? How about your favorite experience, gaming experience from 2021, with the full understanding that yeah, we were still
Oh, this is still pandemic.
we're still yeah, kind of in that thing, but we still had you had some good ones here that I see that you listed down. I had a couple good ones here too.
Yeah.
So
Do you want me to
yeah,
go?
kick it off.
All right. So, like you said, we are, geez, deep as far as years go. We're deep, not just months. We're years into the pandemic now, and socially, we've tried to take care of ourselves as a collective whole in regards to vaccinations and so on and so forth. And so that the idea of having your bubbles, right, your social bubbles, and with that understanding, was very comfortable to adapt my garage into a winterized gaming garage, and of course, wood carving shop and so on and so forth. But regular Wednesday night game night, oh man, that is just such a favorite part of my week, because this is what I love about this hobby, is the social engagement. And now we get to do this responsibly. And now and of course, I mean, Ryan, you've been in the game table in the garage. It's like a 4x8 sheet of plywood that I got on a big, so it's like physically I'm making sure that we're spread out. And I mean, I'm being super responsible just because of my background with Daniel's health. So yeah, that's not a question at all. And the second one for me, so yeah, regular gaming night. Oh, I so miss it so much. But the second one for me is having two regular D&D campaigns that I'm running. And one of them is with the Stevenson family, and the other one is with now again, I'm going to be showing my age here, with my original D&D group from the 90s. And so
Beauty.
out of the blue, I was just like, you know what? I started getting this thing figured out on all, have the cameras and the lighting and the space, and kind of figured out a multimedia integration way of doing this. And this has turned out to be such and I'm going to get a little serious here, but and for everybody going through this, probably it's going to be on point. But this was such a needed balance to my mental health, to be able to I'm going to use the word commune with friends of mine from from the 90s, from like deep history, where all of a sudden the Zoom screen dissolved, and it was just having this interaction and this connected collaborative story. I think it was, I mean, D&D, I love it because of the collaborative storytelling, but to be able to do this with my friends again it is, to me, one of my biggest highlights of this year so far. So my voice is I'm getting a bit verklempt. Talk amongst yourselves. Have a coffee, talk amongst yourselves.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I'm going to be hopping on the same, not that I'm going with the nostalgia
because we used to watch you
of the old friends, but this past year really made new friends.
Yeah.
Like, and I would have never thought in like a million years that in a pandemic where Jen and I, we've been really hunkered down here. We got really young kids that we've been taking care of and making sure that they've been safe and protected. So I haven't been venturing out into, and I can't wait till I get to that Wednesday night game night again, because Clank Legacy is still waiting for us.
Yeah, it's Ryan. Yeah.
So, but I end up making some new friends, which I never thought would actually happen. One thing that I didn't put on here that Rob from the Meeple Dungeon and Jason from Dice and Dragons, we started doing these YouTube like rant therapy sessions about Kickstarters and crowdfunding campaigns. So, and they have been like a lot of fun. Now, I haven't been able to join in on the conversations a lot lately because timing is just horrible in these months.
Yeah. And we teach, right? So you add that one, and it's like, hey, that's a crazy roller coaster.
So, really enjoyed doing the Kickstarter crowdfunding excess or value shows, but then also just like getting to know Rob from the Meeple Dungeon, and when we did the Ashes Reborn challenge, it was really a lot of fun. I figured out all the technical stuff. Like I did a crash course in OBS and streaming over the summer to get that all figured out, and I think they turned out okay. But
you dialed it in, man. Yeah.
But production value aside, like it was very amateur, but man, did we have a ton of fun. And then we were just like, even after stream, after the cards were all laid down and everything like that, we would sit there and we would talk for like another good hour after the cameras were off rolling. And it was just good just to kind of sit there. You kind of know this whenever we had guests on. Yeah. Like when we had like Friday night games on, and we had like even just bored on the air, we just sit and we just chat afterwards because it was just so nice.
Oh yeah, we just go off on tangents. Yeah.
And then I got to play with Riley Stock from the Board Game Community Show. Got to play some Arkham Horror with him because he just got into the game. And again, it was the exact same thing. Production value of the show aside, it was the chats afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
That would just go on for another hour and a half. Midnight, our time, would be the time that I'm going to bed. And I wouldn't trade those experiences, what we did there, for anything. Just meeting some new people.
Yeah.
That I can call friends and that I'm going to be able to hopefully see someday.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, and the thing is you've never met Rob in person.
I've never met Riley in person. It's just all been on camera.
Yeah, like I had the opportunity to meet Rob and Anna Marie in Vancouver prior to the pandemic, so I can't wait for you to actually meet those guys. Now, I want to just kind of piggyback a little bit because your friendship with Rob, this is another experience that I'm thankful for, is what you've been playing Wednesday. And the community that developed from that, and that whole sense of coming together and celebrating the same thing and talking, and like that's how Jason connection and Rob and Chris and
Matt and John,
Chad.
Like
I think we're like up to 14, 15 different Canadian content creators that collaborate. I could keep the alliteration going.
It's amazing. This past week, 52. We did one episode a week for all of 2021. 52 episodes.
Yeah, I was cranking out 2 podcasts a week for a year straight, and it's just like, good thing we're in a lockdown.
Oh,
Cool.
so
Yeah.
it was a pretty good year. Pretty good
Yeah.
year.
I mean,
And what,
considering the restraints that we've been put under, the fact that we've been able to to connect
or
with people.
or a shot at the Sask government, the lack of restraints.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Oh,
Slow
okay.
mo.
Yeah.
Let's turn this into a political podcast for like 30 seconds.
Yeah. No, that's way too much time given that government. Yeah. All right. So,
Premier
um,
Hank Hill.
okay.
We're good.
We didn't really talk about this one in the opener, but I like what we're gonna segue into. So why don't you surprise us with what's going on next?
Yeah, so when people are listening to this episode, my annual Twitter feed will have run its course, and every New Year's Eve, I count it down starting at 3 o'clock, going till midnight. I count down my top 10 favorite games of the year. Well, we're going to do that right now. Why? If you don't follow me on Twitter, if you don't listen to us on Twitter and everything like that,
it might motivate them to, hey, I'm going to go listen to the podcast and catch all of them. So
absolutely.
For me, I'm going to spend maybe 10, 15 seconds on each of them because you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to listen to our full thoughts, go check out some of these games in the past year. We've talked about most of them, I believe, at some point in time. So yeah, top 10 of 2021. The top 10 games that we actually played, though. Yeah, I liked your caveat. There's just still so many games that we have not played from 2021, but these are the ones that we did play, and I actually realized that I did play quite a few. I think I played 22 2021 games.
Cool.
So
now
I have so I cut away half of them.
If you want, I'll start first, which will give you the last call out of the games. All right. And like you said, had I been able to play more, I quickly put the games that I know, if I play them, I know they'd make my list. And that's Sleeping Gods, Carnegie, Hadrian's Wall, and Boone Lake. I know if I played those, they'd be on this list. So, but my number 10 is Alien: Fate of the Nostromo. And that one is designed by Scott Rogers and published by Ravensburger. And it is Alien. You're on the ship and you're trying to, it's basically a cooperative game of survival. And like everyone, there's lots of way to lose and one way to win. So Alien: Fate of the Nostromo.
Okay. My number 10 from designer Luke Laurie and Tom Jolly, which is kind of like the science fiction expert kind of guy brought in on the team. Cryo was my number 10 game. Really unique type of worker placement game. This one, when it came out, it was either you loved it or you hated it. There was not much middle ground, but man, I dug it. It was a really cool theme of the spaceship has crashed, and now you are these fighting factions trying to go out and get all the salvageable materials and make your way into the caverns before the planet actually freezes, because that's the only way you're going to score points is if you actually get your guys into the caverns.
Cool.
And yeah, worker placement through and through with that kind of unique mechanism that once you bring back your workers, you actually get to take actions on your player board as well. So it's not a wasted thing to bring back your workers.
Cool. I got to try that one. All right. My number 9 is Tinner's Trail by Martin Wallace and published by Alley Cat Games. And this one, it's Martin Wallace. Done. Okay. This one is set in like the 19th century Cornwall, and it's during the mining times of tin and copper. And you're buying plots of land and you're trying to mine and you're trying to get this economy going. And it's Martin Wallace. And it is, it's all about that connectivity of resources to economics, to poverty, to dread, to I can't play this game. No, I love it. So that's Tinner's Trail.
Nice. My number 9 by Pandasaurus Games, which was Brew. The absolutely most I think the meanest of all the games that are on this list. But man, like Jen and I, when I was putting together this list, she's like, "You got to mention the." She's like, "It's not my absolute favorite, but man, did we have a blast just like blasting each other."
Oh, you beat the snot out of each other. Once you realize that it's a cute little game, but you're slugging it out. Yeah, cool.
Like when one of your actions or one of the things that you can do is literally burn the world around you, you know you're in for a good time.
Yeah, you caught me off guard with that one.
So yeah, Brew, Pandasaurus Games, cute game, cute art, very, very mean dice placement type of game. But yeah, it's fantastic. It had to make my list.
Cool. What number are we on here? Number 7?
8.
No, number 8. Number 8. Mine is the only game that I own that has an emoji in the title. And that's, I think it's called Bullet Heart. And it is space heroines defend the planet, falling rocks. It's that idea of columns, and you've got things coming at you, and it's an abstract game where you have to start eliminating things and moving items into position for either elimination or scoring and survival. And it's I went into this thinking it was a toe-to-toe kind of thing, but it's such an cool abstract puzzle that is aggresses every turn. So I bought it because it was a big solo favorite with a lot of people, and for good reason. So
cool.
Yeah, Bullet Heart.
I've never heard of this.
I know, right? There's a few people that I like to follow that were like, "Oh, this is flying under the radar. You need to try this. This is such a good solo game."
It's level 99 games. They kind of always have that kind of like video game aesthetic.
Yeah, I didn't mention it. Yeah, level 99 and designed by Joshua Van Lanningham.
Cool.
And yeah, well, that makes sense because it plays like a video game, like Space Invaders kind of thing. So, yay.
Nice. My number 8, there is a lot of people that this one's not making their top list because they have such issues with some of the mechanisms. But Jen and I, as a 2-player experience, fell in love with this. We actually just played it just like the other night as well, just on our Christmas break here. And that is Eric Lang's finale in his trilogy, which is Ankh, Gods of Egypt, which... I know, big CMON Kickstarter. We haven't played with most of the expansion material. We have incorporated some of like the extra guardians and stuff like that, but really kind of neat dudes on the map. Very area control-ish with these like, I don't know. It's got its own brand of the area control thing that's going on. You really have to maneuver and position your guys in the right places to score, and yeah, we really enjoyed it. There are scenarios in the scenario book that are made for 2 players, and they work phenomenally.
Cool. Yeah, you were saying that.
With the 2-player experience. I have yet to play this with more player games. I have not experienced the merge, the most controversial mechanic that this game has to offer. I have not experienced it yet, but I don't think you have to play with it. You can just play this game just as is at face value, and I think it's fantastic. So,
nice.
Ankh, number 8.
All right, my number 7 is I'm a big fan of the RPG and the D&D and the whole thing. And when Lucky Duck Games came out with Destinies, designed by Michael Goblowski and Philip Milunsky. I think I got those. I was all over it and had gorgeous minis. And it's Lucky Duck, known for their QR code driven game systems. They took their Chronicles of Crime engine, I guess, and turned it into a fantasy adventure game system. And boy, did they do a great job with this. I enjoy. Now again, you're going into it knowing that it's app driven, so you got to understand that, and it's very much a choose your own adventure puzzle, because you need something here to go over here to access this, to get this in order to finish this scenario. And I have so much fun with it. Destinies. by Lucky
Yeah, I
Duck
played
Games.
this one too. It did make my top 10. I played through the base game, thought it was fine enough. It was
Hmm.
it's really good. It would have been made my short list.
I think you got distracted with Descent. So yeah, that was my number 7, Destinies.
My number 7 was one of the Stonemaier releases this year on an IP that I have no knowledge of. But the
Yeah.
gameplay is fantastic enough that it is making its way onto this list, and that was Red Rising. And it was my first experience with this, what they kind of refer to as like the fantasy realms of the play a card, pick a card type of gameplay, because your hand size really does not grow unless if there's a special character in your hand. So growing your hand size is very, very rare. And losing cards is very rare. So what you're trying to do is just kind of combo the cards together and progress on these tracks and collect some resources to score points galore.
Yeah.
Because this one card in itself might be worth 15 points, but if it's paired with another particular card, it's now worth 50 points. And I was like, that's a crazy thing. The initial learning of the game, we kind of spent more time reading the cards than we did actually playing the cards, but after a while we kind of started to figure out the flow and trying to okay,
agree.
These are the cards to ditch, these are the cards to play for their deploy effects and stuff like that. But
and considering the synergy in your hands, yeah, absolutely.
And I have the collector's edition, which I thought was way too over the top. You do not need the collector's edition of this game. Base retail version for like the $35 to $40, whatever it is, fantastic enough. You're gonna get so much gameplay out of it.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
and the reason I totally agree with you is because at number 6, I also have Red Rising.
Our first crossover.
Yay! For all the same reasons you said, and I'm so intrigued by the IP that I want to track that stuff down and have a read to it so that I can understand the thematic connection of all these factions and how they play together. So yeah, Red Rising. Cool. That's my number 6.
Awesome.
Stonemaier Games, Jamie Stegmaier.
My number 6 is, honestly, I think it's becoming our most played game of 2021. And that is from the fantastic folks at Flat Out Games and published by AEG. And that is 10 by Molly Johnson, Sean Stankwich, and Robert Melvin. Robert Melvin. Yes, that's it. Regan requests to play this game daily.
Nice.
Which is, I think that makes it... Now that I'm actually looking at my list, I think I probably should have ranked it higher, but I think some of these other games I had a much better experience with them, but only just because as of late, Regan asked to play this game, and 10 is a very simple set collecting game of just trying to create runs of numbers in certain colors. And there's a push your luck mechanic to it, and there's a little bit of auctioning that goes on with it. Fantastic. What they're doing at Flat Out Games and the types of games that they design, automatically always going to go to the top of my list of I need to check this out.
Agreed.
And 10, no exception. I see this game is making lists around the world for good measure.
Okay, so let's not be confused. 10 at number 6, not number 6 at 10. Okay, at number 6.
At number 6.
Okay. All right, my number 5. My number 5 is, I mentioned this in my expansions, and this one is Intrepid, designed by Jeff Beck and Jeff Krause, published by Uproarious Games. And Intrepid is the story of you, and for me, because I play this solo, but you and whoever's playing the game, surviving aboard the International Space Station cooperatively as it gets thrashed event after event, and you are trying to get resources each round to prolong your ability to stay alive in the 220 miles above Earth. So I've played this a couple times, and it is I love a solo game that thumps me, like forces me to get good at the game. and this is a game that does that hands down. And I love the space theme, and I couldn't pass this one up. So yeah, well done, Intrepid.
Neat. Never really heard much about that one.
The Jeff Beck is connected to Tim Fowers of the paperback and hard
Oh, okay.
and
Okay.
Bruegel Brothers, I guess it is. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where his design lineage comes from.
Okay.
Right.
My number 5 is Jen's second most favorite
Ooh.
game of 2021, and we did have a ton of fun of this one. Realize it hasn't hit the table in quite some time, but when we were playing it, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is the abstract game on the list that is the abstract game of 2021, I believe, and that's Mandala Stones,
Yeah.
published by Board and Dice. And the puzzle of this game is absolutely phenomenal of which order you're going to stack the stones in, because when you go to start collecting them, the order actually matters when you start making the stacks on your player board, because depending on what color is at what height will depend on the points that you're going to end up scoring. And you can score all of one particular color at a time. And wherever it is on the certain heights of these stacks, and man, it is thinky. Like when you see it's initially set up all these columns of all these colored discs everywhere, you're like, I have no idea where to start. And they have two different patterns on them.
Yeah. It's a crazy dimensional puzzle, that's for sure.
So
so
Mandala Stones, it's beautiful to look at. The table presence is amazing. Definitely, if you have a chance to wait, anybody who's into those abstracts, have to check this one out. It is fantastic.
Right on. Right on. Number 4. One of my favorite designers, Martin Wallace. And this one is Rocket Men, published by Phalanx Games. And this is, now we're getting back to Martin Wallace. This is deck building. This is card drafting. This is a race. You represent different countries racing to meet objectives, and it's basically a race for points. And all of these, you have 3 destinations: the moon, Earth orbit, Earth orbit, moon, and Mars. There we go. I'm fumbling over my words. And each of these locations, there are 4 to 5 different objectives that you can complete according to your cards. And I think what is brilliant about this is the cards also represent your launch pad accumulation of resources for you to make that launch and successfully get to that objective. And there's, oh man, I enjoy this game so much because it plays fast, it plays smart, and there's so much variability into it. So Martin Wallace, Rocket Man.
Yeah, I got the one play in this year, and I enjoyed it. It was a really neat take on the deck building genre. It was really really cool.
And the launch cards too. I mean, you shuffle this little deck of launch cards, and you draw, and it has the points of how you progress. So yeah, there's such a delicious push your luck in this game. So yeah, Rocket Man.
My number 4, I'm not going to talk much about it because I talked a lot about it on the last episode, in episode 112. And that's from Capstone Games, and that was Imperial Steam. Wow. What a deep and the McCain's deep and delicious cake here is what it was. The train game that might make me a train gamer eventually. But it's the train game that's more Euro-ish in its style and presentation. And yeah, go check out my thoughts about it. I loved it. Loved it. I said it was one of the game of the year. Here it is. It's sitting in the top 5 of 2021. Definitely have to check that one out.
Yeah, you went deep into it. That was awesome. Cool. Now, are we top 3?
Top 3 of
top
2021.
3. My number 3 is a game that I kickstarted because the theme would appeal to me. I love my fishing. And this one is Public Market. designed by Molly Johnson, Robert Melvin, Sean Stanwich. You know these
I
guys.
know these three.
And art by Beth Sobel. Yay. And published by Talent Strike Studios. And it is the Pacific Northwest coast. And I'll be talking about that area again in this list. But it is, you're going out in a ship, you're trying to catch some fish, and the way it's like a polyomino vertical market of these fish combinations that you put into your ice box that you bring back to the market and you sell, and you try to get cards and points, and everything is so beautifully connected, and there's so much tracks and euro depth and challenges, and it plays great solo, and it plays great at 3 players. And this game is so much fun. I love putting this game to the table. Public market, do some fishing, go out for some fish.
This one is a high on my want list. Actually,
I think you picked it up, didn't you?
It was so high that I got it for Christmas.
Yay! Cool.
Yep, put it on my Christmas
so much fun.
Put it on my Christmas wish list just because of the trio of designers. I said I have to play it. I have to. Yeah. I've loved everything that they've put out. I have to play it. So I got it in my Christmas pile.
So much fun. So much fun.
Okay.
Public market.
My top 3. I didn't even realize this. That all top 3 are campaign games.
Look at you.
Right? I'm a sucker. If it's a campaign game and it comes out in a particular year, it's most likely making my top list. And in this case, number 3 was Fantasy Flight's newest rendition of Descent. Legends of the Dark, which takes its Descent series. It's not the 3rd edition. It's a brand new addition into this universe.
Yeah.
And man, did they nail this thing. There's so much immersion, and that helps with the 3D terrain that you put together and that you build your scenarios with. I've only managed to play my way through maybe about 8 scenarios. Scenarios are quite lengthy.
Yeah.
And quite physically large as
you
well.
showed some pictures. It was like, that's a table hog, but it's gorgeous.
Oh, it looks so good. You can get into... a lot of people are complaining that you can't really get into the role playing because depending on the scenario you pick, you're locked out of character choices. So this one's like, oh no, this one has to be like the lizard guy and the dwarf. So if I was always playing as the human, well, I can't play as that character in this scenario. It doesn't matter. I get to build the story with all of the characters.
Nice.
And I get to follow their true. And then, then it's all app assisted. Love that, because after this campaign's done, I just take the iPad into the next room, sit on the couch, and do all of the other stuff, like trade in my resources, buy my items, upgrade my characters.
Love it. Love it.
And there's a lot of things that they can do with the scenarios only can be done with an app. There's a lot of different things, like, spoiler alert, one scenario, like the terrain starts falling apart on you. Like sections of the map are physically and it's telling you exactly what is happening if you were standing here and that place is now destroyed. Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Cool.
Only can be done with an app.
Cool. All right. My number 2. And you know what? My number 2, I'm proud to say some fellow Canadians. Mm-hmm. And that is Mind Management, designed by Jay Cormier and Zen Fun Lim, published by Off the Page Games, a new publishing company of both said designers. And this is taken, and I got to mention Matt Kent, who's the artist, and also because of Off the Page Games, it's based off of Matt Kent's graphic novel of the same title. Now, I've not read, the complete title is Mind Manage, the Psychic Espionage Game. Now, it is hidden movement, one versus many. I used to be a big fan of Whitechapel, but this completely erased it off of my, it bumped it off the shelf. And yeah, there is so much crazy depth. We interviewed both of them and got a chance to talk about the design process with this. And yeah, this totally steps up. This is by far one of my favorite games of this year. So Mind Management, the psychic espionage game, well done on the design and the art.
My number two is also by someone we interviewed and got to talk to this year.
Yes.
And my number two game, the experience of this was it's so cool. And that is The Initiative by Corey Knitska and by his new publishing studio, Unexpected Games. And your number two and my number two are kind of linked by, it's the psychic espionage theme. This one's all about like puzzles and code cracking. And yeah, we've played through the base campaign style of The Initiative where you're solving puzzles and doing this really nifty card action selection system. And yeah, the story was really cool, but what was really the piece de la resistance of this game was the meta game outside of the game.
Yeah, that sounded so much fun.
The puzzles and code breaking outside of the actual gameplay was, I think, now looking back, is the most beautiful part of this game. And that when you're done the campaign, once you've unlocked all of the stuff there is to unlock, then there's a whole nother game afterwards that is all about this code breaking and trying to solve this overall meta puzzle. And
you love that.
And we have not finished the meta. We come back to it every now and then. I still have my notebook over on the shelf beside it with all my little notes and everything like that. So I really want to, hopefully this week, hopefully when Jen gets some time, that we can sit down in the evening. I want to finish the puzzle before the end of 2021. But yeah, The Initiative, if you have not, I've just been following him on Twitter. It's getting released in multiple languages now, going around the world, which is really quite cool to see. The Initiative, it does carry a heavy price tag, but it is worth the investment. Believe me.
Yeah, cool. And it was so much fun interviewing Corey. That was such pleasure. Mm-hmm. Nice. All right, here we go. My number one game of 2021.
The best games of 2021.
Here we go. Probably, I think we could call this our sweetheart publisher of the year is Flat Out Games. Mm-hmm. And this one's designed by Randy Flynn and artist by Beth Sobel, and it's Cascadia. And it is the Pacific Northwest. And it is the second in the series of this game system. Started with Calico and Cascadia, and finishing with Verdant coming out soon. But Cascadia is a map building of terrain type, and you're trying to have the connectivity and have the most tiles of this terrain connected, because that scores points. What else scores points is on these terrain types are animals that are able to occupy these terrain areas. And not only that, but these animal cards that are so variable have patterns that will score different kind of points. And sometimes there's some crazy synergy that happens with the random draw of these animal cards. And sometimes there is such a difficult puzzle to solve with these animal cards. Now, the cool part is that there's a market that comes out with the tiles and the animals, and there's one little rule breaker where you have an acorn. That's it. There's a little acorn that changes the rules to this, and it's such a smooth game, smooth system. Yeah, this has probably had the most plays, and it's such a fun game at solo, all the way to through all the iterations of the player count. So if you've not played this yet, give it a try. It's such a fun game.
Yeah, this one's making tons of lists this year, and I believe for good reasons. I have not played it, but I've heard you. I think it's probably your most talked about game on the podcast this past year. It's been that and Calico. You rant and rave about Calico as well, but man, I need to get in on these. I got in on the Verdant Kickstarter, so I think I might pick up the Kickstarter editions of these other games as well.
Yeah, well, I'll lend them to you. You can give them a try, and then you can decide. But I know you. You'll get them.
I got a feeling. I got a funny feeling that I might love them a lot.
Yeah, you got a feeling. Okay, so you're number one.
By hands down. So I forgot to mention that the initiative was Jen's favorite game of the year. The initiative was. My favorite gaming experience of this year was Sleeping Gods by Ryan Lockett and Red Raven Games. Holy crap. Was the narrative experience of this game. It's a table hog, and managing all the characters in a solo run through is quite daunting.
Yeah.
But man, the adventures. I did 2 playthroughs of this. The adventures that I came across in this world that he has developed.
He's amazing.
It's fantastic. And now the story of Sleeping Gods was that you have been kind of sucked into this realm that is kind of like shares the universe of like above and below and near and far and stuff like that.
His world building is awesome. Yeah.
You've been sucked into this world where the only way to get home is to find these totems that will awaken the gods to help you get back home. And that there have been many other travelers that have come and have never succeeded. So they're pretty much telling you, you are going to die in this world. And I'll let you know, my very first campaign, I was not successful in finding the totems. The second one, I was successful. Ooh. And I didn't even go the same route.
Nice.
And I got to see a whole nother part of the world. That's one of my main things, because your first playthrough, you're only going to see a fraction of what he came up with.
Yeah.
And the way that I thought when I was reading about it, very ambitious project, very ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
But he pulled it off
in
this one. And so my number one gaming experience and favorite game of 2021 was Sleeping Gods by Ryan Lockett, Red Raven Games. I want to see him do this more. I want to see what he can do next.
Yeah. See, I love the stuff he puts out. And that's why I said I haven't played this yet, and it would easily hit my list. So
this would easily, I don't know where it would rank amongst Mind Management and Cascadia for you. This one might be like a number 3 of the year, at least a top 3.
All right.
Once you get it, once you get to play it.
Cool. Well, there's our 2. There's we got all those lists out.
Wow, that was quite the year of 2021.
Yeah, well, and like in my notes, I said when I was going through this list, I didn't realize that I played that many, and then like you said, and realize that there are so many other games that I want to play too. So, yeah,
it was crazy, even in a year where it was harder to find games, and games coming into Canada was at a much slower pace than it usually was. Still got in quite a few.
Cool.
Solo and 2-player and blah blah blah, yada yada yada.
Well, right on. Well, you know what? That's taken us to the end of our segment here, and as always, we'd like to say thank you. We like to say thank yous. So thank you for listening.
We do, and sorries.
And sorries. Sorry. So that being said, I'm your host, Norm.
And I've been 2021.
And we'll catch you later.
Happy New Year's, folks.
Happy New Year.
Da-da-da-da. Transitions are hard.
I'll just do some dancing.
Transitions are hard. Where is it? There it is.